CJ, Kyle, me, Dan, and CJ. Right now, over the weekend, 10-year-old Dan was overjoyed because we have a Mark Eichhorn type pitcher coming to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, very exciting. And his twin brother, it was funny. Last time Kyle and I talked, we didn't get to that point. We were talking about, kind of beefing up the bullpen a little bit. If you can't find a closer, as a lot of these closers were coming off the market, how about just your bullpen getting a little bit deeper? And so to do that now with Tyler Rogers is a big price tag. I think a lot of people around the industry thought maybe the Blue Jays overpaid, but it's been that kind of aggressive offseason for them. But this guy's fun, man. It's a super low arm angle where he is nearly scraping the ground with his knuckles. It is also the slowest fastball in Major League Baseball. So you got that going for you. So don't worry when you see 83 and 84 miles an hour. It's been a very effective fastball. So you got a legitimate, not even a sidearmer. This is a legitimate submarine pitcher that has figured out a way with just two pitches, fastball, slider. That's it. It's sinker, slider. It's a lot of ground balls. It's not a lot of strikeouts, but it's going to be fun to watch. He's been great throughout his career, but especially lately.
CJ, did you ever try it? Because I sure as hell did, playing box ball with the guys after school. The sidearm delivery gets them every time.
The last 2 years of my career after I came back from Asia, I'd always wanted to try it. I'd actually do it every once in a while to Carlos Delgado. So Carlos Delgado absolutely owned me. 5 home runs against me, or 4 home runs against me in my career, and like 15 at bats. And every once in a while, when I was facing him, I was just running out of ideas because he would pull home runs. He'd hit him to center field. He'd hit him to left field, opposite field. And so he was the one guy that I would all of a sudden just change my arm angle out of nowhere against, just to see if I could get him off balance. But then I kind of did make a full commitment to it. At the very end, I was 38 years old. I went down to Dominican, even signed with the Mets a little bit in the minor leagues before that was finally enough. But yeah, everybody tries it, right? There's a progression for pitchers. You start with your natural angle, see how it goes. You can't get guys out. You start to drop down, keep going further. If that doesn't work, then you try to throw a knuckleball, and maybe you can stick around. But in the case of Rogers, like, he's got it figured out. It's not as easy as people think to be able to have the consistency. What's also going to be fun to watch from that arm angle with his breaking ball is that it actually shoots up. Right, you think about a lot of breaking balls. You want to get on top. You want that ball to go down and go sideways. You will actually see a breaking ball that finishes up, and it's really effective. He is not fun to face, despite the fact that he's not overpowering.
Yeah, CJ, a lot of people have questioned this deal, whether it's the right move or not, but just put yourself in the hitter's shoes from a perspective, trying to go from Trey Savage's arm angle to Rogers' arm angle. That's as effective as changing speeds with pitches very well, is it not? That's a terrible adjustment.
It is, and it's been a big focus of bullpens probably over the last 8 or so years, where you've gotten away from thinking about, can I get the most power arms in my bullpen? And there are a lot of managers, general managers talk about how can we vary the looks that are coming out of our bullpen, and that is exactly what this is with Rogers, and it is really effective. And think about what we saw in the World Series, like Louis Varland goes out in the postseason, pitches 15 times, and he's got a great arm. But you're seeing it kind of over and over and over again. And when you get into a postseason, especially a longer series and a 7-game series, it does concern you a little bit. Regardless of how good a guy is, when hitters are getting that same look over and over and over again. So be able to mix it up with a guy, again, who's been unbelievably effective. You're going to see the ball put in play. That's the one thing. Even though he is nasty looking and very tough on both righties and lefties, the ball is going to get put in play, but it's going to be on the ground. And so now what that means, yes, you get the very of looks coming out of your bullpen, but it also puts a little bit of extra pressure on that defense. That defense needs to be in a really good position in the infield in order to be able to get the max value that you want here out of Rogers.
Jays didn't get one submariner. They got two. As they deal that kind of flew under the radar, they got Chase Lee.
They did get Chase Lee. When did that happen?
I think I missed so under the radar.
That was, yeah.
And he's another side armor.
Was he the Rule 5 guy that they got him? Or, they picked him up from the Tigers. Okay, yeah, and we haven't seen very much of him.
Yeah, he debuted last year.
Yep, and so that's different. It's not quite the same arm angle, right? This is a little bit more sidearm, and I would guess that this is probably a guy that's going to have to earn his spot in that bullpen a little bit more. But these are different looks, and that's the other thing, too, is that you might say, oh, well, this guy kind of has a lower arm angle in the way that Lee does. But at the same time, it's not what you're going to get from Rogers. So this is a guy probably more battling for a depth spot, But you look at the top 5 right now out of this Jays bullpen, as much as there was thoughts that they could be in on Edwin Diaz, potentially Robert Suarez, and they didn't necessarily get that closer that they wanted. I kind of look at the top 5 right now, and they're in a really good spot, and there's some good depth. And if you need to, you have multiple options. I think Jeff Hoffman's still your closer, but you'll have multiple options now for guys that can get you saves when you need them.
Yeah, and with this mix of arm angles and whatnot for this bullpen, they didn't get the big name closer, but as you just alluded to, is this enough to change the role of Hoffman and Varland and guys like that in their effectiveness? Just simply what batters will see in front of them.
It will help, and I think for John Schneider, it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how he addresses it once the season gets started, right? I think Jeff Hoffman is probably still your closer, but what helps here, as we talked about last time, is that he's completely open to the idea if there was another closer that came in and he had to slide down to the 8th inning. You need that. You need that kind of unselfishness in your bullpen. So what does that mean, though, even though they didn't get the big closer? For me, it means that we may see a variety of guys getting opportunities if there's better matchups. The one thing obviously with Jeff Hoffman last year is that the home runs were a real issue. And so if there are guys that he matches up against where maybe that part of the lineup is coming up, he may be asked to pitch the 8th inning because there's a better matchup for him. And then it's Varland or Garcia or Rogers that ends up getting that 9th inning. So I'm okay with it. I've gone through it. Like if you have a legitimate closer, you want that guy to be your closer wire to wire, but it doesn't always work out that way. And if you're not 100% confident in having that guy, this day and age now more than ever, guys are open to it. There was a time that really didn't exist. Guys wanted to be closers and only be closers because those were the guys who were getting paid. Well, Rogers showed you that's not the case anymore, right? Your setup guys can get paid in really big ways now. So I think it does help guys a little bit become more unselfish, more willing to do whatever the team needs them to do, as much as they may have been comfortable in the past just getting those last 3 outs, knowing they were only going to pitch the 9th inning if your team was up by 3 or less. So there'll be a little bit more of that, but that's a kind of an indication of how the game has changed, where you may see more guys getting saves. And the way it's set up right now, I think it probably makes the most sense.
So the Jays have a Mark Eichhorn clone. They have a Dave Steep clone in Bieber. Is there a pitcher in the majors that wears glasses so we can have a Tom Henke out there?
Yeah, there are some guys that wear goggles. Jimmy Herget was a little bit of a kind of a side armor with the Rockies. He's trying to come back now as a starter, but he stopped wearing the glasses last year. I've covered him a couple different times with the Rangers and with the Braves. But you don't see
Henke
it
wore
very
like
often. That's a good
construction
point.
glasses. Those were not sports glasses.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Now, of course, everyone's going to have the Oakleys that are prescription.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily see the goggles either, like the Chris Sabo style, like he was out there playing hoops too. But yeah, no, there's. I'm trying to think, man. I think Jimmy's the only guy that I can think of off the top of my head that was wearing glasses, but he's even stopped.
CJ, we haven't heard his name in a few days, but what is your prediction for where Kyle Tucker ends up?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's interesting now because him and Bellinger, I think, get tied together a little bit more. And a team like the New York Mets, I think, is going to be involved in both of those guys. But I do believe it's one or the other for any team. And then we had just heard now that the Dodgers have made an offer on Bellinger. Now, whether or not that is a kind of a ploy to help maybe get Kyle Tucker to bring that price tag down, because I felt like it was going to be Tucker all along for the Los Angeles Dodgers and kind of the games that are played here in free agency with some of these really big contracts that we know are eventually coming. To me, it still feels like it should be the Dodgers, the Jays, perhaps the New York Mets. The only issue there with the Mets is if he's comfortable playing left field. And there's been so much of this focus with the Mets on defense, and he's been kind of an up and down defensive guy. There's been some really good years in there. There's been some years where he hasn't rated nearly as well, but I'd probably put them as the top 3. I don't think the Red Sox, when it comes to Tucker and Bellinger, are players just because their outfield is really crowded. They probably need to be a little bit more focused on what they're doing in the infield and maybe even adding some more starting pitching. So I think those are the top 3. I don't know if we're going to get the John Heyman surprise team or mystery team. Never sleep on the Padres, even though they're not spending money. They could pull off a big trade and have a big subtraction to free up some money, but they're probably long shots. But I think those are your top 3 for both of those guys.
I've said it since the start of the offseason, why the Jays aren't more focused on Bellinger, because he could hit 60 at the Dome.
Yeah, he could, and he's an exciting player, and you get flexibility with him defensively too. Not that you need a first baseman, not that you need a center fielder. Those positions are pretty locked down. But you have an injury, an IL stint. He is a guy that can fill in both of those positions as well to go along with playing a corner infield spot. And certainly with the Blue Jays, I think playing left field would fit in really nicely right now. With Bellinger, you also have to throw the Yankees in there, and they're going to make a push to bring him back. I don't think they're necessarily in on Tucker because, again, he can't play right field with Aaron Judge there and Stanton DHing. But yeah, Bellinger, and listen, we don't hear the name, and so sometimes we make the assumption that a team's not in. And our insiders are really good at getting information, but they don't get everything. So they could be in on them. We just don't know about it.
So is this waiting on Tucker and Bellinger, two great big bats, obviously, is that market what's causing the delay with Bichette being signed somewhere? Is he kind of falling just below them in terms of priority for these teams looking at them?
It's feeling like it, and I do wonder for teams too how much they're working through how they see Bo Bichette defensively as far as where they want him to play, right? So using the Red Sox as an example, would they want him to play second base? Are they confident in that? Are they waiting for Alex Bregman to figure out what he's going to do? I think in the case of Bo Bichette, there's probably a correlation between those two guys in particular. We know that the Chicago Cubs and the Detroit Tigers have been in on Alex Bregman, again, just like they were a year ago. How much that affects maybe Bo Bichette could be part of it. We don't necessarily hear all the same teams that are apparently in on Bichette. So I think in the case of the Blue Jays, not necessarily in on Bregman, but certainly in on Bo Bichette. So I do think those two markets are probably tied a little bit together. Yes, the bigger outfielders always have a play. And I'll still wonder about, the Atlanta Braves, the team that I call games for. They're in the shortstop market. Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager, of course, former Blue Jays, now here in Atlanta, no doubt has got his eyes on a guy like Bo Bichette. I guess the question becomes, positionally. I have heard kind of a little bit more of a sway now in the change of, as much as we'll look at Bo's defensive metrics like short, and they haven't been particularly good, that he's still young. And folks thinking, listen, he's not done playing short. There's some teams that he could absolutely come play shortstop for. And our team here in Atlanta very much needs a shortstop right now. So, and again, the relationship with the Blue Jays and certainly knowing who Bo Bichette is and seeing that firsthand for me, probably also maybe very quietly, the Braves are as good as anybody as keeping secrets, could be in on him as well.
Here's my problem with social media: clickbait. I was looking at Jays news and I kept seeing the headline: Blue Jays owner sends Bo Bichette message after front office extension update. First off, the extension was Shapiro got a new 5-year deal. But Ed Rogers spoke to the media about Bichette. And I read the article 4 times and I'm like, where's the message? He said, that's not really my job. I don't re-sign these guys. Bo's always been part of this team. What am I missing?
Yeah. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I always click on profiles. I feel like I'm spending more time now at home talking my wife off the ledge and stuff she's seeing on social media. I'm like, click on see who sent it. Let's go through a little bit, or maybe just ignore it, sports or otherwise, in this crazy world we live in. But it does exist now more than ever. And I see it too. I'll see, like, out of nowhere, a account that I do not recognize, but does a really good job of looking legitimate and also speaking with confidence on what they're reporting. I generally ignore most of those. And like you said, then you get into an article that doesn't even seem to correlate with maybe what the tweet had to say, which is frustrating. I don't think you necessarily need that. I get the impression from Bo Bichette that this is not one of those situations where owner intervention matters and making sure the player is kept happy. That falls on the front office right now. And I don't doubt that they've been in constant contact with him or with his camp and trying to figure out exactly where they stand. But there are moving pieces. There are legitimate ones that can help the Blue Jays that don't necessarily include Bo Bichette. And that's what makes this thing tricky, right? You try to be objective. Emotionally, you want him back in that Jays uniform, and he certainly can help. But we've talked about this before, and I don't have an answer. What is the best one? If you had the one big move of the position players right now, between Bo, between Bellinger, between Kyle Tucker, what's the best one? And I think if you asked 100 people, you get a ton of different answers on that. People in the know. So I think that's what the Jays are working through right now with him.
With regards to checking your sources, here's a pro tip in life that my lady gave me. I never knew. If you're looking for something on Amazon and you're like, okay, that looks good, it's cheap, I buy it, and then it shows up and it's a piece of crap, she's like, well, how many reviews did it have? I'm like, 1. She's like, there's your problem. I'm like, yep. I didn't know to look for that. Like, we got a star for the tree. It's a piece of crap. And she goes, how many reviews did it have? It had 2.
That's a big one.
There's
I'm
a
with you on
tip.
that one.
Well, that's
Yeah,
where
and
you run
I
into
would read those reviews all the time.
that's where you run into problems because both Bichette and Bellinger and Tucker, they all have great Yelp reviews. So how do you
They
choose between the
do.
two? They all seem like very quality products. CJ, what are the chances that the Jays are in contention for Japanese slugger Munetaka Murakami?
Yeah, this is getting interesting too, right? We didn't even bring his name up when you start thinking about potentially the one big move. He's a fascinating guy in the sense that he's a huge power guy, over 50 home runs a few years ago, has been an MVP multiple times. And whether or not you believe he can hold down the position, I think is probably the bigger question. Defensively, if he was going to be a third baseman with the Jays, third base is probably the spot in which he would fit. I know John Paul Morosi mentioned, I believe it was him that mentioned that the Blue Jays could be in. We're going to get an answer soon because of the four big names that have been posted coming over from Japan. We're a week away from him having to make a decision, right? Once you get posted, it's a 45-day period. His ends December 22nd. So we're going to know very soon. He could be. This is another one. These are harder to track. I saw some frustration from some people online saying, why has it been so quiet? I thought this guy was such a big deal. They're doing a good job of kind of keeping those conversations to themselves, keeping it quiet. But we're going to find out very soon, ultimately, what that contract looks like, where will look like and where he ends up. There's probably quite a few suitors for him because, again, you have a guy that gives you some flexibility. He is looked at as a third baseman, but he can also play first. He certainly can DH. There have been some good, there have been some bad when it comes to hitters coming over from Asia and how they've been able to adjust. And that's always that mystery. It's certainly the case with pitchers, although they're a little bit easier to be able to predict. It's somewhat tougher with the hitters because of the quality of the pitching. It's not meant to be a knock on MPB, but you're just not going to get the depth of arms that you get here in the States. Obviously, there's some very good pitchers in Japan. There's just not nearly as many. I always tell people from the couple of years that I played over there is that you have on the same roster guys that could be big league all-stars and guys that also would be in Double A in the States. Like that's how the variety of arms and quality of talent that you get over there. So that's what makes it tough. And this is a big commitment to get him. I don't know how they feel about him. Apparently they are in again, according to Morosi, but like I said, we'll find out in 7 days.
CJ, I don't think we've discussed in detail you and Carlos Delgado. It's a subject I could talk about for 40 minutes. Where would you rank his swing? Because to me, I could watch it on repeat for 24 hours straight.
Yeah, I faced him quite a bit. I think it ended up being 16 times plate appearances when it was all said and done, or at bats. He did have the 4 homers, 1 single against me. And I still think that should have been an error, but I guess I just got to let that go. It was 20 years ago. Yeah, he was special. He was really special. The thing that he did well, I'm with you, his swing was really good. He did not get nearly the credit he should have been getting from Hall of Fame voters up to this point. I'm not 100% sure if he is a Hall of Famer, but he deserves definitely more votes than he has been getting. He's probably on that borderline mark right now. The thing about facing him for me over the years that he did really well. I mean, he was a huge, strong guy. He played the intimidation game. Him and Albert Bell were two of the ones that stick out to me the most in my career. Never cracking a smile. Didn't like when you threw them in. If you threw them in, you were going to get a look. And for me, that look could be pretty effective at times when you got Carlos Delgado looking like he's pretty mad at you. Always respected him, though. I love competing against him, but he was a huge thorn in my side. But I'm with you. It was a really good swing. He was a good player. Probably did not get the recognition that he deserved post career, and that continues now. But he was a good one, man. He was definitely one of the best of his generation.
Looking around the league very briefly, obviously there's potentially a big trade market for Tarek Skubal. What are the chances he stays with the Tigers? What are the chances they just deal him away in order to not lose everything and not get anything in return for his departure?
Yeah, that they're in a really tough spot. Scott Harris, their president of baseball operations, was probably a little bit too honest about saying that no one was untouchable in their organization because that set the Tigers' world on fire, and everyone's starting to assume that Tarek Skubal would be traded. This is an impossible spot to be in when you have a star like this. We had this conversation, about a year or so ago about Vladdy. Like, what was it going to look like going into the season when you have this absolute stud you expect to contend, but he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year? What's the best thing to do for the organization? While if you put him in a different uniform, that your fans are going to be furious with you heading into the season. So that's right now what they're dealing with here with Skubal. And not only that, but their top 3 starters, him, Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, they're all free agents at the end of the year. Now, Skubal is the biggest of the group. I don't have a straight answer as far as what I would even do if I was sitting in that chair right now. Like, you can sit back and you can be objective and you can listen on all the offers, and there's going to be some great ones and ones that might be able to change the future of your organization. And based on where they kind of run with payroll, it likely would make some sense. I don't think they're going to be able to afford him. There's been some speculation about them maybe signing him this offseason. I'd be shocked if they did it at market value. If they did, good for them. If they reach in those pockets a little bit deeper, but they don't really have the kind of revenue to me that seems like they could support the contract that is coming. Right, this is going to be in the mid 300s and maybe even higher for Skubal. So you could trade him now, get a big return. You could start the season, which probably is the play. And if you're not in contention, which I'd be surprised if they weren't, then you can trade him pretty easily and not get beat up for it and still do well. There's risk involved there, though, because if you are in contention, there's no way you could trade him. If you really want to piss off your fan base, trade him at the deadline when you have a chance to win. So it's tough. That's one way to do it. Or like you said, you just play it out. You get to the offseason. You give them the qualifying offer, you're going to get a pick in return, but that seems flat and seems light for the talent level. So I don't have an answer. I wouldn't want to be the one making the decision. It's a really tough spot to be in.
CJ, maybe we're in a bubble here in Canada, but I keep repeating it. Baseball is back. The Vancouver Canucks traded their best player. The Edmonton Oilers traded their goalie. Yet all the friends I ran into over the weekend were asking about, who's this pitcher the Jays got? They didn't mention the trades.
Yeah, they were asking about Chase Lee.
They were talking
mean
Tyler
Roger.
Rogers. I'm like, this is crazy that you guys want to talk about this and not about the Oilers trading their goalie.
So obviously I love it, right, as a baseball guy first and really only, and it's good for our game. And it's another reminder, too, about all this talk about a potential lockout, how it just cannot happen, right? Baseball is on fire right now. It was an unbelievable World Series, one of the best that we have ever seen. I love hearing that and knowing that Blue Jays fans are as locked in as they are. I think it's happening around the league. For sure right now, like our sport is in a great spot. It needs to continue. And I love hearing it. It's good for baseball.
That's right. Thanks, buddy.
Good talking with you guys.
Thanks, CJ.
CJ Nitkowski, our baseball insider. Hey, we had, I like checking this week to week now, Kyle. Teams that were eliminated in the NFL, and a big one. An E was added next to the Kansas City Chiefs this past weekend.
You don't want to ever see anyone get hurt, but with Patrick Mahomes leaving this game the way he did with the knee injury now, it just was such an emphasis on how terrible this season has been for the Kansas City Chiefs. I hope he recovers quickly and swiftly. But, man, they just absolutely shunked the bed this season, and I don't know if they're now entering into a new phase with that franchise.
There's nothing left in the tank.
Yeah, they've been, the first time they missed the playoffs since 2014, I think it was. Andy Reid's still one of the best coaches in professional sports, but it seems like, Travis Kelce's on the way out. His tank's empty. Mahomes, how much longer could he keep doing it at that level? Well, maybe we got the answer this year.
And the marquee game of the weekend, which we teed up on Friday, that was the Patriots and Bills. And producer Tim said he watched every second. The Bills were down 21-0. He said, never in doubt, Bills win.
Well, I didn't actually get to see the game. I was involved with something yesterday afternoon that prevented me from it. But as the Bills are highlighted as one of my favorite teams, I was getting the score updates and my mood was simply all over the place. I can't imagine them being down 21-0. And then I believe it was 24-7 going into the half and feeling super confident about that position. But I suppose I've been wrong before. Apparently it was, in fact, never in doubt.
And the most underwhelming moment of the weekend was when the Utah Mammoth unveiled their mascot. So much potential. And essentially, they got Snuffleupagus displayed at center ice. It is the most sad, depressing mascot I've
just
seen.
seeing this now. I'm just seeing this now. Oh, yes, a crystal meth elephant. Yeah. Why not?
Like they have a big scary looking woolly mammoth.
This looks like a drawing of a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Like
they dropped the ball.
This is terrible.
So that was my underwhelming moment of the weekend.
Now it's the underwhelming moment of my morning.
And again, if you go deep in the comments, people are like, they got the Timu mascot. Everything that is shitty in life, poor Timu, they get the Timu knock on it.
I got to tell you, it doesn't look like a well-made headpiece. It looks...
When I go to a junior team game and I see their mascot and I'm like, oh, yeah, they went to the mascot warehouse and said, what do you have on sale?
It's got the pupil dilation of a diabetic cat.
If you haven't seen it, Google it. It's a trip. Kyle, we'll see you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday, buddy.